Welcome back to Connect. I am your host, Andy Hale. I got a guest on today that I had on my true crime podcast, Rizvi, award-winning documentary filmmaker, podcaster, writer, telling stories of injustice, wrongful convictions. Got a feature film, 16 Years, that is amazing. We talked on true crime. I wanted to have you on Connect. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me again, Andy. It's so nice.
Well, this is why. I've talked on here a lot, and we touched on this a little bit on the true crime one, but on the true crime podcast, and I encourage everybody to go back and listen to it, we mostly talked about your film, and it is called 16 Years, right?
Yep.
About the wrongful conviction of Jeff Descovich. It's so good. I saw it at CrimeCon where you premiered it, just a little trailer of it, right? Is that what it was? Just like a trailer?
Well, what you saw was the short doc. It was called Conviction. And it was like an episode, like 22 minutes.
Right.
And now I've made the full-length feature film, which is 90 minutes long, and it's called 16 Years. So those are the two.
It's unbelievable. So we're going to talk about that. But this is what I want to get into today. When I think about the topic, and I've talked about this a lot, how we all have the ability to create our own opportunities and manifest our own opportunities, making personal connections that lead to opportunities. You are the definition of that for me, because I can think of all the things that you've done, and you've created these. You have literally created these opportunities. And I think you're such a great example of it, and it's so inspirational and motivational to people. So let's kind of start at the beginning. Before you got into film, what were you doing?
I was working in the fashion and retail industry for almost 20 years.
Had you had any experience in filmmaking?
None whatsoever. I knew not a thing.
Okay, so let's pause there, right there. For anybody who's like, I want to try something, but I haven't done it. Like, I want to maybe make documentary films, which was your example. I've never done it. You had no experience with that. And tell me, this is the first question. How do you, a lot of people, that's a brick wall for a lot of people. That's a brick wall. They just think like, well, I don't know how to do it. What was inside you that made you say, you know what, like, did you quit your job, or did you just do this on the side?
So a little bit of both. It kind of happened naturally at the right time, because I had just had my son. And so I had left my job because of maternity leave. And I had moved to New York. So I was kind of in this in-between, like, I'll figure out what I want to do next after, and then that's when I got kind of this bug and got this idea of going into film. So I was actually, funny enough, I'm just a type A personality, and I stay busy. And so staying home with my son wasn't keeping me busy enough. And I was like, I'll do it on the side while I'm raising my son at home. And I started doing it on the side.
So that has to start with a passion inside, right? For you to basically make that shift, there must have been a pretty big flame burning inside you of like you wanting to do this. Is that how you would describe it?
Yeah, 100%.
And I think a lot of people have these little flames, and whatever it is, maybe you want to be a baker, maybe you want to, be a writer, maybe you want to be something else, but for some reason in their mind, there's a mental block of some sort. So what is it? How would you articulate how you were able to, like, was it just you got to the point where you just couldn't hold it in anymore? Like, how would you describe when you finally took the plunge?
It was all so organic. I was at home and my husband said, you got to listen to this podcast. And I was like, I don't really like podcasts, because this is before podcasts were a thing. And so I said, nah, I don't want to. And then he said, well, it's called Serial and it's a true crime story. And I was always interested in true crime. And it was about a Pakistani family. And so I'm Pakistani, so that got me interested. And so I said, oh, I'll give it a listen. And then, like everyone else in the world, I got hooked. And it was, I think 4 or 5 episodes were out at the time. And I listened to all of them. And then I was really, really heartbroken for the subject of the podcast, Adnan's family and him, because he was sitting in prison and he was an innocent person. And that's what kind of ignited that flame, if you will. And
so how did you link that to filmmaking? How did you look at it?
I decided that after listening to Serial, I decided I wanted to do something to help Adnan, and I didn't know what. And at the time, I reached out to Rabia Chowdhury, who was his advocate, who brought the story to Serial. And she never wrote me back, but this story was starting to go, viral. And so she, I'm sure, got a million messages. And so she never wrote me back. And I thought, oh, well, that sucks. I would love to be involved and I would love to help. And then my second thought was, I don't need anyone's permission to be involved. I don't need someone to tell me to be involved. Yeah. And so I just said, well, I'll just, he needs money for a legal defense fund. He's innocent. I'll start a fundraiser. And because I worked in fashion, the only thing I knew was clothing and sales and marketing. And so I thought, I'll make shirts and I'll sell them and I'll donate the funds. And I made free Adnan shirts, and those went viral all over the world. And it was crazy packaging them from my apartment. And I hosted the very first in-person fundraiser for Adnan in New York and got local bands together with a friend to play at a bar in Upper West Side. And we ended up raising a few $1,000s in this one night, plus the shirts. And I donated it. And at the time, it was the largest donation made to that family. And now they've raised a lot more. But anyways, back then, I got to know them. And now they're good friends of mine. But that's how it started. All
right. So let's pause there. There's a couple lessons there. One, and this is something I talk about all the time, reach out to people. Reach out to people. Like you reached out to Rabia. Okay. You reached out. You had an interest. You had a passion. You had an interest in this story. You reached out. I cannot tell you how many times I've reached out to somebody that I did not know, thought, oh, they're probably not going to respond, but who knows? And I've gotten a response back. Like you'd be amazed. You'd be amazed at like the connections you can make if you have a passion and you approach it with like love and interest and, a genuine authenticity. I love that. Then you create these opportunities by having a fundraiser, creating the t-shirts that go viral, having this thing with the bands, raising money. How does that all lead to then, the whole idea of making documentary films? How does that come about?
So that fundraiser led me to knowing some of Adnan's family and Rabia. I met her in person when she came to New York for a talk.
So now you're already in the circle. You've like broken in. You're an insider.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So when Adnan had his first post-conviction hearing, I was so married to, his story and his innocence and just felt heartbroken for him. It's a bus ride, a train ride. So I took the train or the bus to Baltimore and I attended his post-conviction hearing. And I was sitting in that courtroom and it was my first time being in this environment ever. And I saw so much corruption. And Andy, the thing that really got me, if I can paint this picture, is I saw Adnan's alibi witness sitting in the witness stand, telling everybody what she knows. And really, that should be, he was with her at the time of the crime. So, what else is there to say? And then I saw the prosecutor trying to discredit her and just trying to muddy it up. And I thought, well, he's not trying to get to the truth. He's just trying to win. And I thought, how disgusting that is. And that, my head was going to pop off my neck. I was so angry at this guy. And I was sitting there, and then fast forward to dinner later that night, there was a camera crew filming, and Rabia told us, might have to sign a release because you guys might be on this. It's not public knowledge yet, but Amy Berg is making a documentary for HBO about Adnan's story. And since you guys are here and you're on camera, we might need you to do that. And we were like, okay, fine. And there was a few of us friends and stuff. And I was looking around and there was only 3 people. It was like a producer, I think an audio person and a cameraman.
You're like, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like,
small crew.
Yeah, small crew. And I was like, this is for HBO. Like, how can that even be possible? 3 people. I was like, I know 3 people. Like, I can do this. And thinking, so naive, because clearly there was so many more people working on it. That just happened to be the small crew that day in that room. But I knew nothing about filmmaking. So to me, I thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And on my bus ride home, I was like racking my brain, like, what more can I do? I'd been a photographer for decades. And I was like, I know my way around a camera. And I thought, let me use the skills I have and learn the skills I don't have to kind of add to that. And I thought films would get a lot of eyeballs because at that same time, Making a Murder and Jinx were huge on Netflix.
Huge, right.
And I had just watched them. So I thought, I want to be an advocate. I need more eyeballs. I know how to use a camera. And I saw how many people watched Making a Murder. And I thought, well, this seems like the way to go.
So what did you do?
I came home, I did a bunch of Googling, and I enrolled into New York Film Academy because they had a program starting like in a month or something like
How long of a program was that?
It was 6 weeks long.
And then you came out of that basically with what kind of skills?
I went in there like a sponge. I was like, I'm going to learn everything I can. I'm going to meet everybody I can. I was really lucky because the professors are fantastic there. And so I took the 6-week program, and at the end of the program, the final project was to make a short doc, like a 8-minute doc. And I made one on Jeff. I met Jeff because when I did the fundraiser for Adnan, my friend introduced me to Jeff Deskovic and said he has a very similar story to Adnan. And so I was like, I'd love to meet him. She introduced me, and he was a speaker at my small fundraiser up in New York. So he was the only person I knew at that time who had this lived experience. So I called Jeff up and I said, hey, I want to make a film. Can I film you? He said yes. So the entire 6 weeks I was in college, I started filming Jeff. And so I made this short doc about him. And in the very final class, in the editing class, the professor was supposed to watch all our films to give us feedback on what to change. And he watched mine, and I was very eager to be like, tell me what I need to do. And he was like, I'm blown away, like nothing. He's like, this is great. He's like, you should submit this to festivals.
Did that become conviction?
That became conviction. That is conviction.
Right. So let's pause here. So that's what's so amazing about that is you created all those opportunities. You have this basic career and lifestyle now where you are making feature-length documentary. You want to tell stories of injustice. You basically just pivoted from the fashion world to this documentary filmmaking true crime world. You created all these opportunities. I mean, you figured out what you needed to do. You got the skills that you needed. You had a passion for the stories. And that's what I try to, to me, it's so empowering and inspirational that your trajectory and where you're at. What would you tell to somebody out there who is sitting at home thinking, I kind of want to do this and I'm just not sure, or maybe it could be documentary filmmaking, it could be anything else?
I would say 2 things. One, just start. If I hadn't just picked up a camera and started shooting B-roll, I was literally shooting police cars driving by in Manhattan, anything that could be used as B-roll for the film I knew I wanted to make. But even if it's just practicing shooting your kids or whatever, I would say just start. That's the one thing. The other thing is that I've learned, especially as I've gotten further along this process, knowing absolutely nothing about the industry and not having a single connection. I did not know one person who works in television or film. The more I get to know people and the more I get immersed in this world, the more I realize nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Everybody is starting somewhere.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Everyone's learning as they go. Yeah, sure. They might be at this level now, but they were where you are at some point in time and they had to start. Right. So if you don't start now, the time will go by. 5 years will go by and you'll have done nothing. Or 5 years can go by and you can make a movie.
Right. And this is what I love too. What you said earlier. It's funny. I say this all the time. I don't need anybody's permission. So
yes,
you decided to make Conviction and then basically make a feature doc on your own. You don't need somebody to tell you, to validate it, to give you permission to do it. You just did it. And so I've always been preaching on here too. Create. Put your stuff out there. It can just be a short. I just saw on TikTok a little short interview with Mark Duplass. Like the brothers that, did I say the name right?
Yeah, I know. Yep.
And he was saying, look, if you want to be a filmmaker, every weekend, he's like, just take your iPhone, make a little 5-minute short, one scene. He said, comedy might be a little easier, and your first several probably will suck. They won't be that great, but there might be one little part that resonates that you kind of build from. And he's like, just start. He's like, the cavalry's not coming. Put your shit out there. Make it. I love that. And so you started by making Conviction. And you had a story that you thought needed to be told, which it did, my God. You're a passionate storyteller, a passionate advocate, and you just decided to create. And I love that. Now tell me how that got from the short and walk me through to where you're at now with that story.
First of all, can I just tell you that I agree so much, Andy, with everything you're saying, and as far as connecting with people, because that is how. Well,
you and I have connected. Yeah,
exactly.
We met at CrimeCon.
Yes.
In Orlando, right?
Yep.
And it could have been, and this is what I stress to people. It could have just been like, oh, I met Gia. She was very nice. We kind of, compared stories, but we actually made a connection. We had a We had a lot in common in terms of storytelling, documentaries, true crime. And then, since then, we stayed in touch. We've recorded podcasts together. We're just getting warmed up, the two of us, you and I.
Totally.
And so I just could sense that you were somebody who just was not going to wait around, like I said, for permission. Hey, I'm going to just put my stuff out there now. So walk me through the process of what happened after conviction.
Yes. That day, that professor said, submit this film to film festivals. So I took the next 3 months after I finished school and I edited it to be longer because I thought that it was missing. It was 8 minutes. And I thought it was really hard to trim it to 8 minutes because Jeff's story is so robust. He was wrongfully convicted of a rape and murder at 16, 17 years old. It was too little of a time to tell his story.
Can I pause you real quick? I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
this is something I tell to people too, is you can tell a hell of a lot in 8 minutes or 10 minutes. Like
you can.
Like you don't have to do a long thing. You can tell something in 5 minutes. And I'm going to tell you about my little project, but go ahead. So you want to make it a little bit longer.
So I made it a little bit longer, and then I did exactly what the professor said. I submitted it to festivals. It ended up getting 17 official selections and won 6 awards for all kinds. Yeah, for best cinematography and best documentary.
Could you have imagined?
I couldn't.
I mean, could you have imagined if a little angel came down when you were still in the fashion industry and said, you know what? A year from now, you're going to win a bunch of awards for this little short documentary you did. You'd be like, what are you talking about?
Never, ever,
right.
ever. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And there's little signs all the time. And I know it sounds hokey, but I really... Not
with me. Go, tell me.
I really believe in it and I pay attention.
Preach, sister, preach.
And when I was, right before I quit in the fashion industry, and the reason I quit and didn't just take mat leave and stay with the company is a side story, but I approached HR because it was holiday time and we were making all these holiday, it's a really popular brand. People loved this brand. They were crazy about it. And for holiday, just as a fun activity, all of us in the office would make these really fun stockings and all these holiday things, and we would do nothing with them. And I said, why don't we sell them? Because people will buy them and donate the money to a charity. And I thought, it's just a nice thing to do. Like, we're just making these for fun. And the response I got from that HR guy who, I won't say what I want to say, but he was like, we don't do that. He's like, we work with one charity and only one charity, and we're not doing that. And I was
missed opportunity. These people that don't see these opportunities that come their way when it's just right in front of their nose.
Yes. And for me, I was like, I love my job and I love all this stuff, but I'm really aware of people who don't have these opportunities.
That was your nudge to leave?
It was my nudge to be like, I'm in the wrong place. This is not my place,
Yeah.
And so I just had this desire to just give back. And so that made me I ended up leaving that company. And that was a big, big part of why. There was other reasons, obviously, too. And so then when I got into into advocacy work, it just felt so good because I'd been wanting to do it and I wasn't able to do it. So anyways, after I got into film festivals and got these awards, I was like, well, let me keep this going. And I started doing screenings at a lot of universities and colleges and high schools, which was so fulfilling because the students were so interested. And these are our future jurors and our future detectives and our future lawyers. So I thought, well, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a difference. And I felt like this would make a difference. And so that felt great. And then from there, I started screening at conferences and like CrimeCon. And so we screened at CrimeCon where I met you, thankfully. And I can't thank you enough, Andy, because you're the one who loved it so much and then introduced me.
I cried. I mean, I had known Jeff. I had met Jeff before and I knew Jeff's story. And, I've been to Jeff's office in Brooklyn, but seeing it on film, I walked up to him afterwards, gave him a hug, and I just cried because that's the power of storytelling.
Yes.
You told the story emotionally and it was heartbreaking, And I felt in a way almost guilty that I hadn't had that reaction earlier because I was like, oh my God, like I didn't fully appreciate what Jeff had been through. 16 years in prison. Well, how old was he when he got arrested?
17.
17.
And
my
16
God.
while they were like, kind of grooming him for this.
So, but go ahead. It was so powerful. Oh my God. I can remember that moment vividly when I went up to him.
That means so much to me because, you were, I think, the 6th or 7th person that has said almost the same thing about knowing Jeff, but really, really understanding him through the film.
Yeah.
And that means so much to me because my whole goal when I started was to raise awareness for this. So if I
Yeah.
can raise awareness with people who don't know about wrongful convictions or don't believe they happen, or people who already know about it, but it makes a difference in their mind, that's just everything for me. That's why I got into this. So it means a lot. But I was going to say thank you because you're the one who, after CrimeCon, introduced me to my agent, and you introduced me to Buckwald, and that's how and then they watched it, and that's how I got signed. And so I can't thank you enough, because everything that happened after that point is a direct result of that.
It's all connections. You meet person A, they lead you to person B, who leads you to person C, leads you to person D. Like, I cannot stress this enough. That, and I don't want people to think, I'm not at all saying, I don't want this to sound transactional, okay? Because even if you and I never worked on anything together, we've become good friends. We share stories. I love following what you're doing, you know? So my life is fuller because I've met you. Absolutely. And because I've met you, we have this connection, but it also leads to opportunities with the people you connect with. That's the amazing part. Like, these opportunities will come your way. And I want to follow up on something you said. When you said you were at the fashion place, when they didn't want to do your charity idea, you weren't in the right place, okay? That's what you said. You weren't in the right place.
Yep.
It's funny you said that, because this is just yesterday. I'm scrolling through my TikTok, just my feed, you know? So my feed is a lot of manifestation, music, true crime, food. And I get this video, and I think the account was called like Hustler or something. And I don't know if this was 50 Cent, but it looked like him. It might have been. And he said, you know, a bottle of water is free if you have it, in your house. And if you buy it, at the local market, it's $3. If you buy it at the airport, it's $5. If you buy it at a baseball game, it's $7. It's the same bottle of water. He said, if people aren't recognizing your talent, he said that same bottle of water is just in a different place each time, right? And if your value is really not getting recognized, you're not in the right place. You need to get into different surroundings, right? And so that's why you had this, at the fashion place, you had this great idea for your fundraiser. It wasn't connecting, right, with this guy. You weren't in the right place. You have now got yourself in the right place to do your thing, to tell your stories, and to spread your wings. And so I think when you said that, just so resonated with me.
Yeah, I saw that exact water example.
Isn't it so good?
And it's so good. And it's so true. It couldn't be more true,
Yeah.
And because of that, you know what, Andy? I pay so much more attention to when I'm in a room or with an organization or anybody where it doesn't feel right and things don't feel like they fit. And I'll just leave it. I'll just leave it. I'll be like, I didn't used to, because I'd be like, oh, should I? And will that be rude? Or maybe I'm going to be like cutting off some opportunities that I shouldn't. And now I just know, like, time is not, I don't have forever.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So let's continue the chronology. So now you've got conviction, you've gone to Film Fest, you've had a lot of critical success with it. Now what happens?
So while the short was playing at all these places, I was working on the feature doc. So at the same time, I finished that feature doc. And then you introduced me to Buckwald, and I sent them the feature doc. They watched it and they signed me. And in that same kind of time period, that few months, I was talking to my friends, and I was saying, like, what more can I do? And I have a friend who said, why don't you talk to my manager? He doesn't do this anymore, but he worked in the entertainment industry for a long time. Let's get him on the phone. She called him, and he was
networking,
like, listen.
You're making connections. Keep going. Keep going. Tell your story.
Exactly. And so she called him, and he said, listen, he actually said, I don't think documentaries are going to sell. He's like, I think it's a tough business. He goes, but if there's anyone who can help you, I'm going to tell you it's this woman. And I'm not going to name her, but she's been on Oprah's team for decades. And he was like, I know her. He's like, I think he didn't say I don't want to, but he said, like, I haven't talked to her in a while, but why don't you just email her yourself? He's like, you can find her email, you email her. So I had no intro or anything. He's like, you can just say that you know me and just email her and see if she'll, watch your doc. And so I was like, what do I have to lose? And so I looked her up on LinkedIn. I shot her an email and I said, hey, I was speaking to this guy and he suggested we connect. And I made a doc about wrongful convictions and I'm passionate about it because, and it was like short, like 4 lines, 3 lines in an email. And she wrote me back immediately and was like, send
Wow.
it to me. I would love to watch it. I sent her my doc. This woman, who I would never think would have the time of day or care about me or anything, watched the entire 90 minutes, messages me back and says, I love your work. I would love to work together.
Oh my God.
Here's my phone number. Let's get on a call.
Wow.
We get on a phone call and she loved it. And for me, that was a huge confidence boost and stamp of approval because like Oprah's the end all be all for me for everything. So I was like, wow, this is amazing. And you know, we've kept in contact and she was like, any way that I can help you and maybe in the future we'll work together. And that was a year ago. And who knows, maybe we will one day, you know, but either way, I've never asked her for a favor or anything, but she did say if I could ever help with it, I will. And I haven't needed to ask thanks to you because of Buckwald. So just keep it in my, you know, back pocket.
Well, let's pause there. I mean, what I think is really impressive and inspirational is, and it kind of reminds me when we first made our doc, Sean Reck and I, which was A Murder in the Park. We never made a documentary before. I mean, I don't know why we even thought we'd be able to do it. And if you'd have told me a year before that your doc's going to be on Netflix, it's going to be at Showtime. It was actually in theaters. You know, it premiered at Doc NYC in New York. And for you to say, you know what, I'm going to make a featured doc. That's a lot different than making a short, you know? So you just decided, you had the energy, the passion, the drive to say, I'm going to make the featured doc. And again, what I love is I'm not waiting for anybody's permission. I can do this myself. I can make it. So you basically just self-funded it, I guess, right? You just filmed it, edited everything yourself. Yep.
Everything myself. I mean, I did hire PAs here and there. I did pay an editor towards the end to really get it to the finish line because I knew where my skill set ends. I needed someone with a better skill set to come in.
Yeah.
So I invested money where I needed to, for sure. But, you know, I did more than 50% of it by myself.
That's amazing. I just think that is so impressive. And what's the status now? You're basically shopping it around, just trying to find a home for it?
Yeah. So through the agency, we got a few pitch meetings. I'm actually in LA right now because I'm meeting with Hulu in 2 days.
It's going to happen. It is going to happen. Let's put it out there. Let's put it out there right now. 16 years. You're going to read about it in Hollywood Reporter, Variety, or somewhere. You're going to read about it. It got picked up. And when people see it, oh my God, they're going to have the same reaction I did. People are going to just go ahead. I
hope so. I hope so. I mean, Jeff's story is it's incredible. It's like you and I have said this. You couldn't write this story. If somebody wrote this, you'd be like, that's not really believable, you know?
The thing about Jeff's story is it's a DNA exoneration, okay? And what's important about that is it is 100% he was wrongfully convicted. You know, there's a lot of cases out there, I think, where sometimes people, like Making a Murder is a good example. You know, there's a whole audience that thinks he did it. There's a whole audience that thinks he didn't do it. That might have been the reason that show was so popular. I don't know. But in Jeff's case, when you watch the film, he's 16 when he first gets approached. And you find out through DNA that he did not commit this crime 100%. And then you think of how he lost 16 years of his life and the impact it had on him and how the system basically took advantage of him, the way he was treated by the detectives and all these things. I think he is the poster boy for wrongful convictions. I've told him this, like, if you want an example of a wrongful conviction, just Jeff's case is the case. And so your 16 years is going to find a spot for sure. I just think that's so amazing. And it's incredible that you were able to get it done. Wow.
It was really fun to do, actually. You know, people ask me often, what is it like to be immersed in this world this much? Because it must be depressing and sad. And it can be at times, but even those times feel very fulfilling because I feel like it's helping somebody. Like and I've interviewed at least 5, 6, 7 people who've been wrongfully convicted for my podcast and other things. And they've all said this to me. They said it's therapeutic to talk to you about this. So even when they're having, you know, a tough time, they still think it's a positive, which makes me
this is why I know that you're aligned and you're doing your kind of path and purpose correctly, because you enjoyed it. It's not supposed to be a grind. It's not supposed to be like, oh, I got to go film today. I got to go edit today. Like, when you are doing something that you really enjoy and you feel like you've got a purpose and a mission, that is when, you are fully aligned with who you are and you're just true to yourself. And that's when everything really happens, and that's when things are created. I want to talk about one more thing. There's a book I talk about a lot called Abundant Ever After by a woman named Kathy Heller. And, she talks about manifestation and things like this. I'm big on those topics. One of the things she talks about is being audacious. That's her words. She's like, a lot of times you ask people, what do they want? They don't know. Or when they set their goals, they set them real small, and I'll give you an example. I just talked about this on a couple podcast episodes ago. Me personally, I'm going to give you my 2 audacious goals, and I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to ask you for your audacious goal. Okay. I'll go first. So I've said this before. So I have been filming various things with my client, Chester Weger, who got convicted of the Starved Rock murders in 1960. 3 women found brutally beaten in Starved Rock State Park. He served over 60 years in prison. I'm trying to prove his innocence. He's 86 years old. I think I'm getting close. I got a big evidentiary hearing May 12th. Okay. I've filmed like family functions, birthday parties, Christmas, outside of court, sisters, nieces. And the idea was, I think I'll maybe put this on YouTube, maybe on my website. And then I thought, when I read Kathy Heller's book, I'm like, no. I'm going to be audacious. You know what my goal is? And I put this out there. I want to win an Academy Award. I want to win an Academy Award in the short documentary category. I've already done my research. 40 minutes or less. I already am aware of the film festivals that are qualifying. And when I was watching the Academy Awards this year in the short category, which, by the way, that's part of the awards. I mean, if you win a short, you're winning. You're at the ceremony. You're going to walk on stage. There was a film about a police shooting in Chicago. I forget the name of this film. And it might have been Injustice. I forget. But it got nominated for an Academy Award. It was a short about a guy who got shot and how the police kind of tried to cover up the circumstances. So that's my first audacious goal. I want to win an Academy Award. I'm like, I'm not just going to put this on YouTube. No. I want to win an Academy Award. The second is I want to, and I feel this, all right? I feel this. I'm putting this out to the universe passionately. The second is I want to do a scripted version with actors. And I thought, who would play Chester Weger? Timothy Chalamet. And I did a TikTok video saying, Timothy Chalamet, the universe is calling. This is your Oscar-winning role. I don't know how we're going to connect, but we're going to connect. The universe is going to connect us. I leave it to the universe to determine the how. So those are my 2 audacious goals. And I'm encouraging people to dream big. So I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but I want you to level up what you just heard. All right, think of what would be an audacious goal for you?
Well, first and foremost, to get one of these streaming platforms to buy this film and get it out there in the world. To me, that's like the number one goal. It's the thing I've been working on for the last, 6 months-ish. That would be first and foremost. So I think once it's out there, everything else will fall into place.
But I think you're close to that. So I think that's going to happen. So I want you to find something. I think that's already that's already very likely to happen.
Think that.
Yeah. Well, I mean this. All right, but this is what I want to tell you. I'm gonna help you here.
Yeah.
This, and I mean this dead serious, because a lot on my Connect podcast I talk about manifestation and everything starts with your energy. Okay, everything starts with your vibration. So I want you to feel right now like it's already there. So what you don't have to tell me what it is, but because I know you're kind of shopping around, but picture your number one choice as a landing spot. Okay, picture that, and I'll just throw it out there. Let's just say Netflix. Okay, yeah. It's on Netflix or HBO, and now there's just so many. I mean, there's great content on so many platforms.
Yes. And
it's out there right now. I want you to feel that feeling right now. How would it feel if you got a call and say, oh, it's going to be on this network? I want you to feel that feeling right now, even though that hasn't happened. Carry yourself that way. When you have a pitch meeting, this is my advice. When you walk into a pitch meeting, feel like this thing is already so unbelievably fantastic. it's going to be on one of these platforms. They're all going to want it. Not in the sense of, not at all cockiness, not at all arrogant. The energy you give off. The energy you give off in that room is, I am so excited to tell this story. I got goosebumps just being in this room to tell the story. When you have that energy, that's when the magic happens, because that's contagious. Mm-hmm. When you walk in a room feeling that way, the whole room's going to feel that way. The whole vibe of that room is going to change, and they're going to want to tell this story with you. So it starts with how you feel, and you have to, and I just can't stress this enough, is once you feel that feeling and you kind of just carry yourself that way in your life, your day to day, when you're walking down the street, when you're at the grocery store, just kind of feel like the success of like, yeah, this is already on one of these platforms. Like, man, this is going to be, it's so exciting. Like, feel that. Does this make sense to you?
It makes total sense. And I'm so thankful for this advice that's right before my meetings, because I need it. Because I'm not good at this, what you're saying.
Feel this way. Like when you walk in, just feel so and this is not going to be hard for you. Feel how excited you are to tell this story. And if they ask you about it, you say, you know what? I feel so excited and passionate to tell this story. It feels so good to tell this story. You're going to radiate an energy that is contagious. That energy then is you're going to be giving it off like a space heater to everybody in that room. And it's going to make you and the whole project look so attractive. And as opposed to, I think sometimes people walk in a little nervous, like they don't belong. And don't confuse this with being cocky. This is more like you got a smile on your face.
It's confidence instead.
You just feel good about it. Like, you're just excited to tell Jeff's story, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to land somewhere.
Yeah.
It's this story can't be held back. It's too good. And the way you've told it is too good. So I want you to have that vibe. So I'm going to, when I say about audacious, I look at for you something like this. It's like, no, I got a 3-picture deal with, this studio or this place. Like, they loved Conviction so much, they now signed me for like my next 2 projects, which I haven't even figured out what they are yet. Like you now have like a multi-project deal because people want to work with you because they were so blown away by Conviction. Like you have now, you're a level above just being a filmmaker who got something on one of these platforms. You got bigger aspirations. You got bigger goals. Like, that's where I want you to get your mindset. Okay.
Right.
That is realistic for you. And I just think, even though I know you're a dreamer and I know you set high goals for yourself, I can just sense right now that you are not thinking big enough because you're thinking it's too big.
Yeah,
it's not too big. It's not too big. It's not.
Can I just carry you with me? Can you just come with me everywhere?
I'm telling you, it's not. I mean, it's not like I'm sitting here talking to you. I'm not talking to the version of Gia that still works at the fashion place. Okay.
Right.
I can see at that point, you might be thinking, I want to get into filmmaking. And I'm like, okay, well, it reminds me of a Seinfeld episode where Jerry and George are talking, and George says he wants to be a baseball announcer. And he's like, Jerry's like, what do you want to do? He's like, well, I wouldn't mind being a baseball announcer. He's like, well, okay. They kind of give those jobs to former players, kind of giving them like a soft landing, like, well, that's not something you can do.
Right.
Where you're at right now, with the success you've had with Conviction, with the final product you have with this feature doc, I'm telling you, what's going to get you across the finish line now is you radiating your passion and excitement about the project. Like, it's going to be felt by everybody that talks to you. They're going to, if you radiate that energy, people are going to want to work with you. They're going to want to tell your story. You're going to walk out of the room, they're going to say, God, I just, was that like, wow, was she awesome? And in this book, this Kathy Heller book, which I talk about all the time, I'll send you a copy, by the way. She says the biggest compliment you can get is somebody saying, I love your energy.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
that's like the best compliment. Like people feel that. They're attracted to that. They want to, they want to, that's who they want to work with,
Mm-hmm.
not somebody who's just kind of low key, quiet. I mean, the movie could be just as good, but if I came in like, well, it's a story about this guy, Jeff Jeskovich, and, I think, met him, like that's fine. But if
Yeah.
you come in with like, you just have if you just are glowing and radiating, I'm just telling you, this is the way I've been feeling like this whole 2025, and I just see how it makes such a difference. It all starts with that, when people want to manifest things and you hear different things about like visualizations,
Yes.
affirmations, those are all great, but the most important thing is how you feel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The feeling, you have to feel it. If you just sat here and said 10 times to yourself right now where you're sitting, 16 years is going to be on HBO, 16 years is going to be on HBO, 16 years is going to be on HBO, you're almost saying it like you don't believe it. You're almost saying it like, from a kind of a lack of confidence standpoint. Just feel the feeling of,
Mm-hmm.
man, this thing is so good. I loved making it. I loved telling it. I can't wait to have these meetings with these people. I can't wait to meet these people who want to hear more about it. I can't wait to share my vision for this. And here's the thing. It's already done, right? So it's not even like, it's done. You've got it.
It's not like I'm selling an idea for sure.
No, but this is where I think you can get this. This is where your audacious goal is. They're going to go, hey, what else are you working on? And I'd have an answer for that. I'd say, well, I got a couple other cases I'm interested in. They say, oh, really?
Yes.
And then you're like, you know what? You got like a tour, like you got like a first look deal with somebody where they want to be your partner for for the next project, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I hope this doesn't sound too on a lot of my podcasts. I hope people don't take it the wrong way, but I give all this unsolicited advice.
No, not at all. I love it.
Where I almost feel like I'm a life coach in the sense that what I'm saying to you makes so much sense to me. It resonates with me because I know the talent in you and I know the opportunities that exist for you. I want you to understand where you can go with all this. But we'll take it one step at a time.
I feel the opposite. I feel like, I was funny when we were scheduling this. I was like, should I do it while I'm traveling or should I just wait? But also this year, my thing has been, don't wait. You just get everything done. There's no waiting. Like there's no perfect time. The time is now, always.
When you get the opportunity and someone says you want to be on a podcast, make it happen. Fit it in.
Yes.
If somebody says they want to meet you to talk about something, fit it in, man. Make the time.
So I did while I'm traveling, and I feel the opposite of what you're saying. I don't feel like it's unsolicited advice. I feel like the timing is perfect because I have two meetings in 2 days from now, and I'm going to keep your words in my mind when I go to these meetings.
We're recording this today for a reason, a couple days before your meetings. And I'll just go back, I'll say it one more time, just to kind of make it a little clearer. Walk in there, just feeling like radiating how much fun, how passionate it's been to tell this story. Like when they ask you some questions about this, they're going to ask you questions like, how did you meet Jeff? How'd you hear about this? Blah, blah, blah. Like if you just have a glow about you, you're radiating energy, you're excited, you're passionate. I'm telling you, that is going to flow right into them. And they're going to feel that. And that's going to make such a difference to the people you're in the room with. They're going to feel that energy. And when people feel that, those are the kind of people they want to work with. Those are the kind of stories they want to tell,
For sure.
So I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Me too.
A couple days before. And we're going to have a part 2. So we'll leave it on this note. We'll come back down the road when we get an update for whatever else you're doing, whatever else is going on with you. I can't wait to hear, the next chapter of what you've got to say. But I wanted to, for today, tell you how impressed I am with your journey. You created all this, Gia. You created all this. You had a passion. You had a desire. You made it happen. And that's what the Connect podcast is about, telling those stories. So thank you.
Andy, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Seriously, you've become such just a wonderful human being in my orbit. And I'm so grateful for that, for real.
I can't wait to continue this conversation, to be continued.
For sure.